Fellow business owners, what have you learned the hard way? In the comments, if you are so bold, drop a lesson that you've learned the hard way. And maybe we will do an updated version of this video that includes some of your lessons you've learned the hard way, and we'll feature those. I am breaking down, in this video, I'm going to break down 41 business lessons that I've learned the hard way. Let me rephrase, that I'm learning the hard way. My suggestion to you while you're watching this is that find just one. Find one lesson that you're like, this could make the biggest impact on my business, on my profit, on my impact, and apply that immediately. And feel free to comment and let us know how it goes, or if you want to email me privately about that, I would be elated to hear about how you're progressing. We're diving in. So, who am I? I'm Dominique, the founder of Off the Beaten Path Learning. Off the Beaten Path Learning provides personalized guidance to founders, to families. We work especially well with neurodivergent founders and families. I've worked with thousands of learners of all ages at this point, and I earned my master's degree in community education. And through Off the Beaten Path, I have helped people to go from overwhelmed, stuck, bored, to confident and clear. Our process has 88% of learners achieving their goals publicly, which is really, really cool because it's not a requirement. The only requirement for Off the Beaten Path is that you want to go and take control over your own progress and learning. You can do that at any age. You can do that with any goal. But the fact that 88% of learners from all walks of life, from all ages, have accomplished their goals publicly is really, it's like a data point that's really close to my heart. I feel really good about that. So if you are overwhelmed or stuck, first of all, do not feel badly, not for 1 second, it happens all the time. And if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed with your business, with your family, and you think you can benefit from personalized guidance, book a call. Like, let's talk. It's free, it's a free call. The link is in the description. I'd love to hear from you. So the way we're going to break down this video is into 7 sections. Each of the sections is a category, right? So chapter, section, category, call it whatever you want. Mindset, persuasion, leadership, strategy, network, resilience, and accountability. That's a good one. First of all, have a goal. Know what you're going after. This one I learned from Layla Ali, and I thought that I knew what I was going after. In a way I did, but I think my vision for my business was more clear than my vision for my life. And you are a person before you're a founder, at least for most of us. And so I would encourage you to have, as Layla Ali, world champion boxer, daughter of Muhammad Ali, who I saw because a learner's mom invited me to an event where Layla Ali was speaking, and the first thing that comes out of her mouth when she's giving advice is, have the end in mind. Know it. Know what you're going after. Have that destination, like you are putting it in the GPS, you know exactly where you're going. You may not know exactly how you're getting there, but you know exactly where you're going. Lesson number 2, still mindset. Focus on one thing. Some people call this shiny object syndrome. I've heard Alex Hormozi say this, I've heard Arlen Hamilton say this, but the person who is most famous for talking about one thing and one thing only in the realm of business, Gay Keller and Jay Papasound. They wrote a book, it's called The One Thing. It's very good, I've read it. It's got some really cool graphics inside of it that I quite appreciate. Focus on one thing. Focus on one thing. If you have 3 different businesses, cut 2 of them. If you have, 1 business and 2 jobs, do what you can to create boundaries so that you know what your one focus is, and then everything outside of that focus is outside of that focus, and it's a means to an end. And I say that because it's real life. Like, I had a conversation with Lance Contrell. I was in an office hours, and he said, it's very common for people to get distracted with freelancing, part-time work, full-time work. There's a reason why focus is such a valuable asset, because it is the biggest leverage. Your biggest asset is your time. So use it really well and protect it really well. And that's what Lance said to me. He said, protect. If you have a meeting for one thing, if you have a day set for one thing, nothing else will touch it. And of course, we have families, we have people who depend on us, we have people knocking at the door, but know your boundaries. So if it's not an emergency, we can talk about it later. Like, know and protect your time. Know your boundaries, protect your time, focus on one thing. Move in silence until the move is made. If you talk too soon about something, this is a little bit of neuroscience. If you talk too soon about a goal that you are working toward, right? You haven't achieved the goal, you haven't done the thing, you haven't implemented or executed yet, and you're talking about it, I'm going to blah, blah, blah. You run out of steam. I think it's related to dopamine, now I'm forgetting, but your brain tricks itself into like, I already did this, so I'm good. I don't need to put all my effort into this thing anymore, which is a lie. You do, because it's not done. It's not, and even after it's done, there's follow-up, there's follow-through. And so just move in silence as much as possible. This is a lesson that I am really still learning. I'm currently working on something. It is a big move, and I'm not talking about it, except that I am talking about it to certain people. And I have to say, there are some times where I slip up and I'll mention it to someone, and their opinion is just not what I needed to hear. And then I remind myself, like, that's why you weren't going to say anything to anyone, because you don't need their influence. You don't need their influence, like, drifting you away from, no, none of that. Just laser focus, move in silence until the move is made. Then you can tell people and whatever, but it's, even at that point, there's no need to be loud. The next lesson is that feelings are temporary. This comes from Layla Hormozi, and she is credited with talking a lot about fuck your mood, do the work. And I want to somewhat balance that with mental health advocacy and kind of hold them together. Because I think she is a big proponent of, you don't need to seep into your emotions. Like, if you're really sad, you don't need to just eat ice cream and sit around all day watching a sitcom, which I love doing when I'm sad. But that may not be the best thing for you. If it is, by all means, go ahead. But if it's not, and you can logically discern on your own, because everybody's life is different, everybody's situation is different, you have to come to this conclusion on your own. But if what's best for you and what's best for the business is to say, fuck my mood, I'm going to do what I'm going to do what I have to do, that might even make you feel better. It very often, for me anyway, it does make me feel better when I'm productive and when I'm consistent and doing what I said I was gonna. Like, that feels really good. So, fuck your mood. Thank you, Layla. Okay, this lesson is about staying where your feet are planted. Staying with your feet. What I mean by this is in the present moment. It's all good and helpful to have the end in mind, but don't obsess over it to the point where you are not in the present moment. You will only stumble, you will trip, you will fall, you will maybe even stay down. It's very important to live in the present moment. Lesson 6. We're still in mindset, so we're still talking about mindset. 1% improvements. Stephen Bartlett is who I most associate with this, but I'm pretty sure there have been many others who talked about it before him. But he's big on talking about, like, sweat the small stuff and make small improvements because they count a lot. An example of this in my life, and I've talked about this before, is that I track my consistency, my rate of consistency. And so I've been improving at a very small rate per day, per week, per month, but it is working. And so to give you an example, I started tracking, if I am doing what I say I'm going to do, I started tracking that in early October of 2024. It is now February of 2025 when I'm recording this, and it has gone from like usually 30-40% in the beginning, which means that I was more inconsistent been consistent, which sucks. To now, it's mostly like 70, 80%, mostly 70. And so that's a great improvement. It's not where I want to be. It's not where I can be, but, and it's taken like 6 months, but we're getting there. And so 1% improvements, sweating the small details, right? If I can do just one more thing on my to-do list, this is the to-do list, right? So today, I'm slacking today. What's a good one? This was a good one. Last Thursday, I did most of it, right? All the crossed out stuff is stuff that I said I would do and then actually did. And so I go on the consistency tracker and I'm like, all right. Okay, so sweat the small stuff, make 1% improvements, be all the fuck about it. You don't necessarily need to celebrate every single improvement, but measure it, know that you're paying attention to it, because what you pay attention to, that's what's going to develop. That's what's going to grow. If you don't pay attention to it, it's not going anywhere. Lesson number 7, chapter 1. Eat the frog, eat it early. This one is Brian Tracy. Brian Tracy is a business person, salesman. I've seen him on YouTube. I've never seen him in person. I don't think I've ever read any of his books. I don't know if he has any books. What am I even saying? Eat the frog. What does that mean? It means do the hard thing that you know you have to do first. Like first thing in the morning, first thing you get up, use the bathroom, do the basics, and then eat the mother frog. Why? Because that's the greatest leverage you're going to get. And to get it out of the way first means that you are prioritizing what matters most. You are focusing on the one thing, to bring it back to focus, you're focusing on the one thing that can make the biggest difference in your day and toward your goals. And when I say toward your goals, it's good to touch back to Layla Ali's have the end in mind. Because if you don't know what the end in mind is, then you're eating the frog for kind of no reason. And it becomes pointless and not helpful. So all those things work together. Chapter 2, persuasion. Okay, this lesson is about selling the vacation. This is from Alex Hormozy and also other people, copywriters, salespeople. They talk about how you're not selling the quality of how fast the security is at the airport. Like, no, I don't want to even think about the fact that I'm going to an airport. When I'm going on vacation, if I have to take a plane, I don't want to think about the airport at all. I want to get straight to the part where I'm in Miami and I'm chilling and I'm like on the rooftop and I'm dancing. That's what I want to think about. If you're selling a service, it doesn't matter what you're selling. Sell the emotion, sell the benefit, right? If you're selling like a desk, you don't want to mention the type of wood unless it has anything to do with how it's going to make you feel. The desk is going to make you feel organized. It's going to make you feel good about your work. It's going to make you feel fancy. Whatever it is, that's what you're selling. That's what you're persuading the person to buy into. Nobody cares about the features. And the way that I've learned this the hard way is that Off the Beaten Path Learning is predicated on a model of learning called self-directed education. When I tell you that nobody knows what that means, there are like a very few handful of people that actually know what that means. There are even educators who say that they're self-directed and that they practice self-directed education. Point is that no one's going to know what the T79, feature does or is, or why do I care? They lose you at that point. Every time I say self-directed education, another angel dies. Like, it's terrible. So I'm really struggling, but I'm working hard to not say that anymore, or to say it significantly less. I'm trying to use more relatable language now because, God help us, like, self-directed education is beautiful, but it's like speaking a different language, which actually, that's the next lesson, but let's stick to one thing at a time. This lesson is on engagement. This is from actually a client, Jeff Horner. He is the owner of the Whiskey Whisperer. You're more than welcome to visit his website. He's been in marketing for a very, very long time, 40 years or something crazy like that. He's worked with like lots of really big companies. And what he told me in terms of engagement, right? So when you're persuading and you're in sales, but you're not quite doing direct sales, you're doing more like engaging in the comments, engaging with your audience. When you're doing this work, the objective is to keep the conversation going. I learned this the hard way. Sometimes I would say something and it would just stop the conversation. I would say, some advice or something applicable to the person. I would leave a comment. Conversation would stop. It would get a little like, it would get a little heart, and then it's like, bye, I don't need you anymore. You didn't ask me a question. You didn't open this up for discussion. And so right there and then, I lose that lead because they got what they needed and they're gone. So you want to find some kernel that you can plant a seed and to keep the conversation going, right? Don't just pitch, build relationships. It's what it's all about. People buy from people. Now, going back to selling the vacation and speaking the right language, right? So not talking about the features and the wood is cut with a 7x7. I don't know what. This is from Arlen Hamilton. Arlen Hamilton says, be where they are, speak their language. So if your audience is looking at XYZ magazine, they're watching ABC channel, they go to this supermarket locally or this chain all over the place, right? You want to be there. You want to be where they are, right? It's like Petco, go where the pets go. If your audience is pet owners, Petco would be a phenomenal place for you to be, a phenomenal place for your product to be, a phenomenal place for you to advertise your services. And on top of that, you want to speak their language.